Hello again, my name is John and I am a nobody. Just to remind you, it's nobodies that make the world go round. It's not football players or racing car drivers. This is a strange story, but it's true, about how I shared a stage with the great Van Morrison. Now, I like Van Morrison because he's a proper artist. He can do things with a few chords that not many people can do. James Brown was another one. He can make a wonderful song out of a couple of chords, a song that you will always remember. And I used to have a record deal with a major record company, Phonogram. And I was in the office one day and the woman there had a huge rack of albums behind her records. And she said to me, you can just choose any three you want. And one of them was Into the Music, which was a Van Morrison record. And I played that record literally to death, I had to throw it away. It was great, and it was great in so many different ways because the drums were fantastic. You can listen to it without even listening to the vocals. Just listen to the drums. They're just so great. It was Pete Van Hook on drums. And later, much later, I was at Pete's house and he was playing a record by, I can't remember her name now, but she was quite famous at the time. And I said to him, that sounds like Pete Van Hook. And he got the record cover down and looked, and it was in fact the only song that Pete Van Hook had played on the entire record. I was right. I never knew that I would one day be sharing a stage with Van Morrison, and it's so strange how it happened. So after our lovely meal, and after I'd gone to the kitchen with the plates shaking, because he told me he'd be working next day with Van Morrison, I went back and asked if I could come along with him on the trip to Rotterdam. And he said yes. So we turned up with the extra equipment from this company, Dutch company he worked for. So Van Morrison that evening had basically two road crews. He had his own Irish road crew, and he was playing with his Irish band, who were great. And then he also had the company from Holland, who were also present. So I was on stage. This was in the days before lanyards or security passes and stuff. I was on stage, just doing my thing, and this man came up to me and gave me this big book, and I opened the book, and inside were all the microphone settings. So I set up Van Morrison's microphone and his acoustic guitar microphone and took up my place behind the monitor mixer on stage. So Van Morrison was, literally a stone's throw away from me. And the band started playing. They were great, and the sound was great. Everything was wonderful. And then Van Morrison came on stage. Now, it's important to remember that people bought tickets not to go and see the band, but to go and see Van Morrison. The band started off with an instrumental, and they were great. It was a great vibe. All the audience, they were seated. It was a wonderful location. And the vibe was really high. And then Van Morrison came on stage, and it just sunk. And you could almost see it. It was almost like one of those cartoons where you have somebody who's really angry and you have a black cloud over their head. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm a Van Morrison fan. It took him 2 or 3 numbers to get back to the level where they had been, where the band had just been playing without him. And it was quite something to see. Anyway, my moment of glory arrived where I was standing behind the monitor mixer, but I was keeping an eye out on things, though it wasn't my job, because I was not part of Van Morrison's road crew, neither was I part of the company from Amsterdam. I was just an innocent bystander. But I did notice that Pete Van Hook's drums, there was something wrong with them, and I think he'd broken his snare drum. So I looked across the other side of the stage, and there was a roadie who was crouched down, and I called him over and pointed to the drummer on my right, who was Pete Van Hook, and made the sign for snare drum, and he scuttled behind the drums and managed to repair it. Or maybe he gave him another alternative drum to use. But it was a great evening. I shouldn't have been there, but I was, and I wanted to share it with you. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and those you love, and Tchaikovsky. Bye for now.